Huntsville, Alabama, known as the Rocket City, is a vibrant city in the northern part of the state, nestled in the Tennessee River Valley. With a population of around 200,000, it's the largest city in Alabama by area and one of the fastest growing in the region. Huntsville has a unique blend of historical charm and modern innovation, making it a dynamic place to live and visit. Historically, Huntsville played a significant role in the early days of Alabama, and its downtown area is home to beautifully preserved antebellum homes, particularly in the Twickenham Historic District. These historic neighborhoods offer a glimpse into the city's rich past. Huntsville is perhaps best known for its significant contributions to space exploration. In the 1950s, it became the center of the U.S. rocket development program, led by Dr. Wernher von Braun and his team. This legacy is celebrated at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, which houses a vast collection of space artifacts, including the Saturn rocket. Economically, Huntsville thrives on its robust aerospace and defense industries, anchored by Redstone Arsenal and NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. The city also has a growing technology sector, with Cummings Research Park being one of the largest research parks in the country. Beyond its industry and history, Huntsville offers a high quality of life with a variety of cultural amenities, parks, and educational institutions, including the University of Alabama in Huntsville, UAH. The city's mix of Southern hospitality, cutting-edge technology, and rich history make it a unique and appealing place in Alabama. This is where our story takes place. In the small town of Jasper, Alabama, in the mid-1940s, where Betty Wilson and her twin sister, Peggy Lowe, were born. Growing up in a middle-class family, the sisters shared a deep bond that would later become central to a case that shocked a community. Betty was known for her striking beauty, intelligence, and outgoing personality, while Peggy was more reserved, finding comfort in her religious beliefs. As the years passed, Betty's life seemed to follow a path of success and prosperity. She married Dr. Jack Wilson, a well-respected eye doctor in Huntsville, Alabama. Together, they built a life that many admired, living in a large home in an affluent neighborhood. Betty relished the social status that came with being the wife of a successful doctor, attending events and enjoying the privileges of their comfortable lifestyle. However, beneath this veneer of happiness, there were underlying tensions. Dr. Wilson was significantly older than Betty, and rumors swirled about infidelity and growing discord in their marriage. Then, on the night of May 22, 1992, everything changed.
I went up the steps, and as I rounded the top of the stairs with my head down and looking up to turn on the light, I saw Jack lying in the floor.
Listen, this is the police department. Talk to me, okay? Were you in the house or did you walk in the house? Okay, you come home and you walked in the house and you saw this person laying on the floor. Who is the person to you? Okay, do you know if the person that hurt him is still inside?
I don't know. I got afraid.
Okay. Now you just go stand there and you don't go back to your house, okay? And we.
Dr. Jack Wilson was found brutally murdered in his home, his body bearing multiple wounds to the head from a savage bludgeoning. The news of his death sent shockwaves through Huntsville, where the Wilsons were well known and respected. The police quickly began their investigation, and it wasn't long before they started looking at Betty as a suspect. There were no signs of forced entry, which suggested that the killer was someone with access to the house. Moreover, Betty's demeanor in the days following her husband's death raised eyebrows. Her calm and unemotional behavior seemed out of place given the violent nature of the crime. The case took a dramatic twist when James White, a handyman with a criminal record, came forward with a shocking confession. White claimed that he had been hired to kill Dr. Wilson, and that the offer came from none other than Peggy Lowe, Betty's twin sister. According to White, Peggy had approached him with a $5,000 offer to carry out the murder, acting on behalf of Betty, who allegedly wanted to rid herself of her husband and collect on his substantial life insurance policy. The accusations turned the investigation on its head, casting a dark shadow over the sisters' once close relationship and raising questions about the true nature of Betty's seemingly perfect life. The story of Betty Wilson, from her beginnings in Jasper to the tragic events in Huntsville, became a tale of intrigue, betrayal, and the darker sides of human ambition. White's confession was both detailed and damning. He claimed that he had met with Betty and Peggy multiple times to plan the murder, during which they provided him with crucial information about Dr. Wilson's daily routines and the layout of the house. White further alleged that on the night of the murder, he used a key given to him by Betty to enter the Wilson home, where he killed Dr. Wilson with a baseball bat. Relying heavily on White's testimony, authorities arrested both Betty Wilson and Peggy Lowe, charging them with capital murder. The trial, held in 1993, became one of the most sensational in Alabama's history. The prosecution's case centered on White's testimony, portraying Betty as a cold, calculating woman who, along with her sister, conspired to have her husband killed for financial gain. The defense, however, countered by arguing that James White was fabricating the story to avoid the death penalty. They highlighted his history as a career criminal with a reputation for dishonesty, casting doubt on the reliability of his testimony. The defense also emphasized the absence of physical evidence linking Betty to the crime. No fingerprints, no DNA, and no witnesses to support White's account. Despite the lack of physical evidence, the jury was ultimately swayed by the detailed nature of White's confession and the prosecution's depiction of Betty as someone capable of committing such a crime. Betty was found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Peggy Lowe, who was tried separately, was acquitted of all charges.
Would you read the verdict for me, please?
We, the jury, found the defendant not guilty.
Betty Wilson's conviction has sparked significant debate and controversy over the years. Many believe she was wrongfully convicted, largely based on the testimony of a man with a clear motive to lie. Critics argue that the prosecution's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that inconsistencies in James White's testimony were never fully addressed in court. Throughout the years, Betty Wilson has steadfastly maintained her innocence, insisting she had no involvement in her husband's murder. Her defense team has filed numerous appeals, contending that she was the victim of a miscarriage of justice. They have highlighted that James White received a reduced sentence in exchange for his testimony, raising serious doubts about his credibility. In 1997, the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals upheld Betty Wilson's conviction, but the case has remained a topic of legal and public scrutiny. Some legal experts have called for a re-examination of the evidence, suggesting that advances in forensic techniques could potentially exonerate Betty. Despite these ongoing efforts, Betty Wilson remains in prison, serving her life sentence. The Wilson case left a profound impact on the Huntsville community and all those involved. The murder, trial, and subsequent legal battles deeply affected the Wilson family and the community at large. The case also underscored the complexities of the legal system, particularly in situations where convictions hinge on the testimony of individuals with questionable credibility.